You're listening to Taste for Truth Weight Loss Encouragement. I'm your host, Barb Raveling. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. It's so great to have all of you here today. And I am thinking of doing something new on this podcast for maybe 2 episodes or so. I've been thinking of doing this for a long time. And then my assistant, Julie, she brought it up too a little while ago. And I thought, why not give this a try? Here's what I'd like to do. I'd love to publish an episode of updates from people I've interviewed previously on the podcast. So whether I've interviewed you before for a coaching interview or a victory interview, I think it'd be really fun to hear episodes of those updates, or, one episode with all those updates. Another episode I think would be really fun would be one where all of you share some of your victory moments. Okay. So it might just be like a 2-minute little message, but some short little message that tells you, that tells all of us, what victories have you had? Have you had a victory in the renewing department where you really started a renewing habit and God is using that to change you? Have you had a victory for weight loss or keeping your weight off? Have you had a victory in breaking free from the control of food? Or maybe even if you've had just a little aha moment. So here's what you do if you want to be in on that. I have a recording. It's at SpeakPipe/Barb Raveling. That's just regular speak and then PIPE/Barb Raveling. You go to that link, and I'll also have the link in the show notes, and push the record button. And then I think it gives you like 4 minutes to record, up to 4 minutes, but it can be a minute. It can be 2 minutes. It just can't be more than 4 minutes. And then record that. So if you're a person who's been on the podcast before, you just say, here's my name. This is the date my podcast aired. And here's my update. And then if you have another, just have a little victory to share, you pretty much say the same thing. So whatever you put on that recording, that's what will show up on the podcast. So don't put your full name on there unless you want that to show up. So anyway, I think it'd be super fun, but we'll need input from you guys to do it. So that's speakpipe.com/Barb Raveling to be involved in that. Okay, I also want to tell you a little bit about today's interview. And we're doing a coaching interview. And one thing I've found as I've done more coaching and taken all the training to be a coaching is that I have a harder time doing these coaching interview podcasts because I'm more focused on the person I'm coaching. And so you do a different type of podcast when you're doing it for those who are listening than you are for helping that particular person in front of you. So for today's podcast coaching episode, I think there's a lot of helpful information in there, but the first 8 to 9 minutes of the interview is more personal to the person who I'm going to be interviewing, Kim. And some of you guys will enjoy listening to that. So if you do, just go ahead, enjoy all of that. And if you want to get more into the part that's more applicable for everybody, then just jump ahead 8 or 9 minutes. And I also want to say something, because I made one error in the recording. Kim had a doctor recommend that she go on a 1,500 calorie diet because she wanted to lose about 100 pounds. And someplace in that episode, I mentioned that it was a 500 calorie diet. It was not a 500 calorie diet. So when you hear that, think to yourself, 1,500 calories, not 500 calories. That would be ridiculous. Okay. Anyway, we're not going to be talking about calories in the interview. There might have been a little bit about that at the beginning. I think it's a episode that will be applicable to all of you. Okay, I hope you enjoy this episode and get a lot out of it. And let's go ahead with that interview. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. It's so good to have all of you here today. And I'm excited to have Kim on the podcast today. Welcome to the podcast, Kim.
Thank you, Barb.
Well, it's great to have you here. Why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am Kim, and I am married 16 years. I work full-time from home, and I do part-time Bible study on the side, and I have a small part-time business that I do on the side as well. So, and I love my Jesus, and just here to get some questions answered, get some coaching.
Good. Well, it's good to have you here. So why don't you start out by telling us a little bit about your weight loss history, because I know you were wanting to do some coaching for that.
Sure. Yeah. So I don't have a grand weight loss history at this point. I hope that may be a future podcast. I have been trying on my own for many years to lose the weight. I've recently, through Bible study and another individual Bible study that I'm doing along with the Bible, realizing that I need God's help with this versus my own self trying to do it.
Yeah, that's interesting because so many people we have on the podcast, they're like, oh yeah, I've lost weight like 2 times or 1 time or I go up and down 20 pounds and I've done it all my life. But so you've never have you been overweight for very long?
I have. Yeah, I'm 54 and pretty much I have been consistently overweight my entire adult life. So
Yeah, that's and that's kind of interesting because whether we go up or down or we never bend down, it's still just as hard for all of us. It's not like it gets easier with practice. Right. I wish it did. So that's not anything to worry about. So what would you like help with today?
Sure. So one, I find that I mindlessly eat at night. One, trying to figure out how to stop that. My doctor has mentioned a 1,500 calorie diet, and I don't know what that looks like. My eating habits, we do eat healthy, clean, whole foods, but I eat a lot of it. So, so if I make a pot of, beans and carrots with a chicken stock or something, I could eat, 2 or 3 bowls of that. So it's just a matter of trying to figure out when to stop eating, putting guidelines around that, and just getting out of my way and knowing when to stop.
Okay, but that's good that you already have a kind of healthy eating habits. Now, how about your mindless eating at night? Is that healthy or unhealthy?
It's I would say it's in between.
Uh-huh.
So if I don't have it in the house, then I'm good. So, but if I have a bag of, say, pretzels, savory is my go-to versus a sweet. So crunchy savory is my nemesis.
Okay. So it sounds like you have a little bit, could use a little bit of help with quantity control, maybe during meals, not having so much, and then mindless eating at night. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. So how do you feel about the 500 calorie diet?
I don't know. I don't know if it's realistic. And I don't know what it looks like. So
Right. I can't remember if you said how much you wanted to lose because we had to do a little start over. So I can't remember if in this new episode.
Sure. I mean, ideal 100 pounds would be awesome. But again, I want to, again, if that's what God wants me to lose, that's great. If it's 50 pounds, then that's great.
Right. So, well, you know what I think would be kind of interesting since you don't have a time where you lost it all before. So in some ways, would you say you haven't got on the whole diet, little go around where you're dieting all the time? Have you avoided that?
I have. So, okay. And I don't buy into the, the latest craze.
Okay.
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I think in some ways that it's really interesting that this stage of your life, you haven't gotten the whole diet merry-go-round. So it might be interesting for you to try a non-diet boundaries, like say 3 meals a day and, a certain number of snacks. Can you see any advantages of that versus dieting? I mean, you could diet. If you diet, for sure you're going to lose the weight if you follow the plan. So sure. Doing a non-diet set of boundaries is a little bit more, well, we don't know for sure, but we're going to have to tweak it and see how it goes. Which one appeals to you more?
Right. I think the non-diet is more appealing because I don't want to be bound to a program. One, just because some of the programs, even looking into them, they're so expensive. I'm fine with cooking my own meals and, getting a bag of beans and cooking them. I'm fine with doing that. It's just a matter of stopping eating when I've had enough.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and maybe we'll if we have time, we'll circle back around to this. But if you were to do, say, like a 3 meal and 1 or 2 snacks a day boundary, what you do is each meal, before you sat down to eat, you'd say how much you're going to have. So you wouldn't just sit down and say, oh, I'll just have as much soup as I want to have. And this is my meal. You'd look down, you'd look at the soup and you'd say, okay, what's an amount that would be, maybe a pretty good amount to be healthy and to another good amount so that I'll be hungry for the next meal. So if I want to be hungry for the next meal, how much soup would I have at lunch? And for some people, that'll be 1 bowl. For some people, it might be 2 bowls. Or you could even say, I'm going to have 1 bowl. And if I'm still hungry, I will allow myself a second bowl. That's okay too. But what we don't want to just say is, I'll have 1 bowl and like, oh, I feel like another bowl. I'll have another bowl. So see what I mean? Right. So you kind of want to plan it. It doesn't have to be planned hours in advance, just, right before you start eating. So that's what you would do. And then for the mindless eating at night. So see, the problem is you can set something like that. So we don't know with you, since you haven't ever tried it before, or do you know how good you would be at following something like that?
I don't because I find it's when I'm bored or if I'm anxious, and my work load is it's heavy. So, I find like during the day, like I work from home, so I can just run to the kitchen and grab something, and I can easily polish off half a bag of pretzels without even realize I'm doing it. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, I just did that again, didn't I?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So with things like that, would it be possible to get them out of the house?
It is. But I feel like I would be gypping my husband. Yeah. So I don't know if I feel like I need to control it.
Okay. And is your husband at a good weight?
I think so. I mean,
okay.
As far as I know, it doesn't bother him. So,
okay. So he's not a person who, because as far as, food for spouses, like, like if we say, oh, I'm gypping my husband by having these chips, that kind of depends because chips aren't healthy. There's no health value to them.
Right.
So you're not really gypping them. You might be gypping them out of a little bit of fun, a little fun eating. But if the person is unhealthy in any way, you're helping them by not having it in the house because they would also be better off without having them. But if the other person wants them, it's not like we can control them. So if they say, no, I definitely want chips in the house, we're going to have chips in the house. That's one thing. But if it's another thing, if they don't care if you have chips in the house, and we're just thinking, hey, I'm gypping them by not having chips in the house. It's especially true for any of you listening who have kids, because we can help our kids develop healthy habits too. So it's not like we're harming them by not having a whole bunch of unhealthy foods available. So anyway, that's just something to think about. Okay. But it sounds to me like with the mindless eating, the eating during the day when you're stressed out, when you're bored, I think it is going to be really hard to follow those boundaries because you're kind of used to not having any boundaries.
Right. And that is a really good point, because even growing up, I didn't have boundaries weren't set. I could pretty much I was raised by a single mother, so I didn't have those guidelines set. She worked afternoons or midnight, so those boundaries, those guidelines were not there. So that's a really great connection you just made. So,
oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So because I think you said you started struggling with weight at a young age, right? And a young
Correct.
age, there's no food boundary. So that kind of set that in place. That's super interesting because like when I grew up, we would have had food boundaries. Like my mom wouldn't let us just eat all day. But like say whenever it was a holiday, like say we went trick or treating and we had tons of candy, she let us eat that as fast as we wanted. Or if she was making cinnamon rolls or cookies, we got to eat as much of the dough as we wanted. Okay. And so all the areas where she kind of let us do what we wanted, those are the areas I struggle with as an adult.
Okay.
And of course, some people who are raised by somebody who is really strict, like say if they watch their mom be on a diet and always being really strict, they'll more go into rebellion mode. But if you're raised more like somebody who is like your mom or like my mom around holidays and different events, a lot of times we just pick up those habits because we're not used to having boundaries.
Right.
And it's hard to get rid of them.
Right. And also too, something you said clicked, like there was no follow through. There was no accountability to follow through on something. So,
Oh, you mean like for your work and that sort of thing?
well, just like with like eating or so say a diet,
Uh-huh.
if there was a diet, there was like no accountability to follow through for me to be held accountable. An example would be like her not asking for my report card. So that was just something that it wasn't, I don't want to say it wasn't important. It was just she was so busy with other things, it wasn't a priority. So I don't know if that makes sense or not.
No, that totally makes sense.
Yeah. So, yep.
Yeah,
So,
and it's so interesting because I'm sure everybody who's listening is thinking how their parents raised them, and of course I'm a parent. I have 4 kids, and the interesting thing is it's kind of hard to get it right as a parent, right?
sure. Yep.
And we can't always do it right, or once our kids are raised, we think, oh, I should have done it that way. But the nice thing is, no matter what upbringing we had, we can go through and change that.
Sure.
So that's what the renewing the mind is, in a way, is taking all those things we learned growing up that either some of them just weren't helpful. And then, of course, some of them weren't biblical. And we have to change our thinking so that we take on more healthy thinking or more biblical thinking, because that's going to serve us so much better in the future. But it takes a lot of work to change all that thinking when we've been thinking like that all our lives.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess the question is, how would you go about changing your thinking to recognizing that, you know what, it'd be better if I had boundaries, if I only ate at certain times, if I just didn't let myself eat all day, if I had boundaries. How would you change your thinking to make that happen?
One, I believe obvious is prayer.
Right.
And I think one thing I've recently started doing is putting scripture on sticky notes and putting them on my bathroom mirror. Because it's
good.
Yeah, we've recently moved, so I have my bathroom now, so I can put any kind of sticky note on my mirror I want. So, so, so prayer and the sticky notes, and one, asking the Holy Spirit to make those stick in my mind and to remind me and prompt me when it's time to eat, and stick into it.
Yeah, that'd be good. I think all those things would be good. And I do think what they say is as many senses as you can get involved, the more the learning will take place. So like sometimes you could say, read those scriptures, maybe not while you walked. You could maybe listen to them. I mean, you don't want to fall over. But like,
Sure.
I remember in college that they said, if you could study for your test while you're walking on a treadmill, you're going to learn it at a deeper level. So if you could somehow do something like that, or if you write things down. So like every day you wrote down 5 reasons I want to follow my boundaries today, or 10 reasons, or whatever you think you could do. You could write it down in the morning. You could write down 3 more in the afternoon. Or you could write down 3 reasons I'm thankful I'm following my boundaries, something like that. And how about, have you tried renewing your mind with either my book, I Deserve a Donut, or my new one, Say Goodbye to Emotional Eating or Truth Journaling?
I have not, every time I look at it and I get sidetracked on something. But that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think all those things would be helpful, because what's going to happen is you're going to make the plan. And then what we all do is you make the plan, but in the moment, we don't want to follow the plan. So yeah, we want to be healthy, but we also want to eat what we want when we want. And we want to have instant excitement when we're bored. And we want to have instant stress relief when work's not going well. And so all the good intentions go out the window when those things happen in our lives. And so what we need to try and do is train ourselves to renew our minds, to change our thinking so that we don't even want to do that. Because there are some people out there who, when they're bored, they aren't even tempted to eat. Okay. But we're all tempted to eat. So if we're all tempted to eat, we have to realize, we have to learn at the gut level that no, food is not a good solution for boredom.
Right. Okay.
And I do think we do that through the renewing of the mind. Like I have
Okay.
boredom eating questions on the app you could use.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, right. So you can go to that, either the app again, hopefully the Android app will be up and running when this comes out, but it isn't right now. But yeah, the book. So somehow we have to get all that thinking in our past out of our minds, change the future. That is just so much work to do that.
Right. I feel like I have a lot of knowledge in my head, but I don't apply it. So,
yeah. And this way, so when you renew your mind, you apply it to that specific situation. So we're not renewing our mind for life in general, eating healthy. We're renewing it in the mind to like at 3:00 today when I want to go get the savory snacks. Okay. So that's when I sit down and renew my mind with those specific pretzels in mind.
Okay.
So like, what would be example? Let's just try truth journaling. So let's say it's this afternoon and you have a big bag of pretzels. What are you thinking? And you've already set up your boundaries. So you're just saying 3 meals a day and 1 snack. And maybe you're saying no pretzels for snacks. If I have pretzels, it has to be at a meal or something like that. Okay. What would you believe that would make you eat those pretzels in the afternoon?
Are the pretzels my snack for the day, or are they a mindless snack?
Yeah, they're mindless snack. Let's just say you've already had your 1 snack for the day. You have no snacks left. You can't eat again till dinner. And those pretzels are sitting on the counter staring you in the face. What is making you want them when another person would not want them?
I don't. What I've recently figured out is it's triggered by being overwhelmed from my work day, because there's so much to do and I don't know what to do first. So I stop, I go to the kitchen and I grab the pretzel. So I don't know what the connection is.
Oh, okay. That makes perfect sense. In fact,
okay, explain it to me.
Yeah, no, I'm learning so much that procrastination, because basically it's kind of procrastination with work, right? And procrastination, I think it makes us depressed. It makes us unhappy. It makes us eat to escape. And so really what needs to happen is that you can renew your mind about the pretzels. So I might be thinking, I'll have some pretzels and then I'll start my work. Is that kind of what you'd be thinking?
I don't know, because I'm thinking right now, because I actually enjoy my work, like the tasks that I have to do.
Right.
But there's so much of it, it's prioritizing it. So I don't know if maybe it is underlying procrastination. And I'm also thinking too that I want to make sure that I get the job done correctly to make the requester happy. Not disappoint them. That's something.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know if maybe it is procrastination. I don't know. And figuring it out.
I would guess it's either procrastination or escape. It's like work is too hard or it's so overwhelming. You go get pretzels just to kind of ease your mind, ease the stress. So honestly, in a situation like that, I think you'd be better off just working on procrastination. Okay. Because you could get my procrastination Bible study. Okay. And you could use that to help you overcome the procrastination, because basically you have to figure out a way to make your daily work manageable so that it doesn't overwhelm you. Okay. Which is that's something I've been doing lately, and I've gotten it to that point. And I have all kinds of, I have my procrastination Bible study and lots of other tools for procrastination on my website, because that's something I've struggled with. And I feel like I'm finally at the point where I really enjoy my work and I have it manageable. I don't feel overwhelmed, but it took a while to get to that point.
Sure. Okay.
Which is why eating is so hard, because eating just has so many things driving into it. Procrastination, that's a whole area by itself that can take forever to get over, right? And so that's making you eat. And then boredom is making us eat. So we have all these different things that are making us eat. But it would be interesting to just say, hey, what are the three biggest things making me eat? So for you, it might be procrastination, boredom. If you had a third thing, what would it be?
I think probably isolation or I think isolation. So
That makes sense. And
yeah,
that's true for a lot of people who work at home.
sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Or
Yeah.
retired people whose
Yeah.
kids are out of the house. So those three things, you could just start working on one at a time. So you can still, I think it's still important to set boundaries, set your boundaries. And every time you break your boundaries, renew your mind. That would make it way more manageable. Every time you break your boundaries, you have to renew your mind in writing in some way.
Okay.
And it could even just be a one sentence truth journal. I have some little things on simple truth journaling on my website.
Okay.
So, but then that'll kind of take care of working on the eating part. And then start working with one of those areas of your life to try on a practical level to manage that, to figure out how to handle that and change your life up in a way that you'll kind of conquer that little problem. So like one of the things that used to make me eat is annoyance. And this was back way long time ago before I really started working on my weight. But I started renewing my mind every time I was annoyed. This was with my husband. And then pretty soon I didn't get annoyed with him very much anymore. So since I didn't get annoyed with him, I didn't eat for annoyance anymore because I wasn't getting annoyed. So if you can figure out how to not procrastinate, how to go to your work, how to not worry about disappointing the other people, figure out what your little work problems are, then you won't be tempted to have the pretzels because all of a sudden work is okay now. Okay. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think maybe you already do this because anybody who's listening, like if this seems like, okay, that could take forever, this is a lot of work. But if we hold weight loss with open hands, if we feel like, hey, it's okay if I'm at the weight I am. It's not the end of the world if I am at this current weight. And we just look at it as a step-by-step process, walking with God, becoming more mature, becoming more like him, hold weight loss with open hands, then it's easier. Just do what you can do.
Okay. Tell me more about the open hands. What that means, like allowing God to guide me? Is that what you're?
Well, I would say open hands means I don't have to have it to be happy. So if I'm thinking this is unacceptable that I'm at this weight and I can't be happy unless I'm skinny, I'm holding weight loss with clenched fists. It has to happen. Okay. And you can do the same thing with work. If I'm feeling like I have to make these people happy, I can't disappointment. I'm holding making them happy with clenched fists. I've got to open my hands and say, hey, it's okay if they're unhappy. I'm going to do my best. It's okay if they're unhappy. And when I feel that way, it's going to be easier to do that task. Okay. In fact, one of the reasons I used to hate writing is because I was afraid of Amazon reviews because I'd gotten some negative ones and I'm like, I have to write the perfect book so I won't get any negative reviews. And then I realized that, hey, when you set yourself out to a writer, you set yourself to get some negative reviews. That's just the way it is. And same thing with you, your work. You can never keep everybody happy. You are going to disappoint people at times.
Right. Okay.
So we got to hold those things with open hands and then it will be easier to do our work. That will make us enjoy it when we realize, hey, I might disappoint. And you can always talk with whoever you think you're going to disappoint, if you need to get some guidelines on what they're expecting. Okay. You can have conversations like that, but we need to learn to let go of people pleasing. Of course, I have people pleasing questions in my I Do Zero Donut book, Renewing the Mind Project, Living Up to Expectation class. So those are ways you can renew your mind.
Okay. So that's interesting. The disappointing, or that I never connected the dots of disappointing people like to people pleasing, but it makes sense. So
oh yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yep. Okay. And then in the evening, again, you might need to find a way to fill up your days. If you're boredom, like maybe make a plan for the evening. And I might have some podcasts on evening eating. You could just
Okay.
Google Barb Raveling evening eating. I can't remember if I might have interviewed somebody about that,
Okay.
about how to solve that problem. But basically, like if I were going to say in a nutshell, what you need to try is just to actually have boundaries. And I like that you're trying non-diet boundaries. I think that could be helpful. If you need accountability, though, you could go to a group like Weight Watchers where you actually go to the meetings. That could be helpful for accountability.
Okay.
And then start just a real basic renewing the mind habit to at least renew your mind whenever you break your boundaries.
Okay.
I mean, ideally, we would renew it before we broke our boundaries, but that's hard to make ourselves do.
Okay.
Because usually, we just want to eat so much, we don't want to renew our mind before.
Right. Okay.
And maybe make the goal at the beginning just to not even to lose weight, but to get control of food, to establish boundaries.
Okay.
That might be a better goal at the very beginning. But if you've never counted calories, you don't even know how many calories are in food. Sometimes, like I've seen men do that because men are in the habit of never dieting, and they just don't even know how many calories are in a plate of food. So in some ways, it's helpful. It could be helpful just to see that, so that you could see, oh wow, this is why I've struggled with weight, because there's a lot of calories in pretzels. And if they think I'm only supposed to have 1,500 calories, I can't have very many pretzels. You know what I mean? So just as a way to educate us, I have had some people where they'll only do 3 meals a day or 3 meals and 1 snack. And at the end of the day, they'll think back to what they had each meal. They might even jot it down as they go. And they'll actually just do a calorie count, just maybe the first week, just to get an idea of how many calories they're having.
Okay.
So they don't continue on with calorie boundaries, but at least helps them know about how many calories are in food.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to try. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to, no, those are good pointers. So, yeah.
Okay. But good. So what was your biggest takeaway from that?
I believe I'm just looking back at my notes here. Let's see. I like what you mentioned about the open hands, about allowing holding, like being clenched with the idea of the weight loss, and just accepting myself as I am, and just trusting God. If it's meant for me to lose large amount of weight, I will, continue to stay on a path of the truth journaling, staying in the word, reading his word, writing the word down, just keep renewing my mind with it, and finding somebody to hold me accountable. I think those are great takeaways that are realistic for me right now in my life.
Good. And I was thinking too, with the mindless eating, have you ever bought a car, like say you buy a red car and all of a sudden, it's little red cars all over the place.
Sure.
We bought a little red car one time. And it's like, after that, it's like whenever I saw a little red car and I came out of the store, I just went to get into it, even if it wasn't our car, because I thought that was the car. But that's with mindless eating, we will notice when we're eating, if we start having it, there be a penalty for it.
Oh, okay.
So if like every time you eat outside your boundaries, you have to do those donut questions, or you have to truth journal, or you have to do an exercise in my Say Goodbye to Emotional Eating book. That's actually one of the easiest ways to renew your mind. Then all of a sudden it won't be mindless anymore, because you'll be like, oh, I don't want to eat because I don't have to take the time to renew my mind afterwards.
Okay. 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 Okay.
Yeah, it's mindless. Oh, it's kind of like using our phone. If we have no boundaries in the phone, we're always doing mindless getting on our phone, because we haven't told ourselves we can't do it. But say if we put our phone in the kitchen, and every time we want to get our phone, we had to walk in the kitchen, all of a sudden it wouldn't be mindless anymore. So you have to have something to take it from mindless to, okay, I'm doing this.
Right.
And I'm not supposed to be doing it. Let's see what we can do here.
Right. And I think too, it's important to, again, asking the Holy Spirit to remind me of these things if I'm getting out of control, or if I'm not paying attention, to put down the pretzels.
Yeah, right. Well, and sometimes it is easier just to remove temptation. You could talk to your
Sure.
husband about it, see what he thinks, because I just think it's depending on how stressful our life is at the moment. Even though I've been free all these years, my life is stressful enough right now. I couldn't have, a dozen donuts on the counter in my house. I would eat too many of them. So sometimes it is best to just get them out of the house. You can at least talk to your spouse about that, see what he thinks.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Okie dokie. Well,
Great.
and I guess I would also suggest doing a weight loss Bible study.
Right.
So either Free from Emotional Eating, Taste for Truth, or I think there's other weight loss Bible studies out there too, but just do something for that foundation if you could. But you basically, you just do what you can. You don't get overwhelmed. Do what you can. Look at it as a little take the steps journal. And sometimes you're just dabbling in it for a few years, and then, dabbling in the renewing of the mind, dabbling in doing a weight loss Bible study. And then you're like, okay, I'm serious now. I'm going to start renewing my mind every time I break my boundaries. Most people don't lose weight until they start getting serious about that. Very few do. And I didn't. Yeah. Until I got serious about renewing, I was always just, kind of up and down.
Yeah. The one, and that's what I had mentioned earlier. That's why I feel like I have all this knowledge, but I'm not serious about it yet. So, and that's where I want to go.
Right.
I want to get serious.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Well, I'm glad, hope that helped a little bit. And
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Be interesting to see how it goes. If you can, write and tell me a few
I
months down the
will.
road, because you're really an unusual person in that you made it to this age without the up and down diet thing.
Yeah.
So I'm super interested to see how it'll go.
Well, great. I will make a reminder and I'll follow up with you.
Yeah, do.
I will. I certainly will. Hopefully it'll be a good news story. So
yeah, I hope so. That'd be great. Well, thank you for taking the time to be on the podcast with us today, Kim.
Yep. Thank you, Barb. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. It was a great time.
Okay. And thank you everybody else for being with us today. I hope we encourage you to get serious, start doing that renewing. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. And I hope you guys have a good week following God and following your boundaries. And I will talk to you next time.